Stop looking around. Look directly at yourself. If I told you that the person you are today is actually a hollow shell of dead potential, it sounds harsh, doesn't it? But truth is rarely a lullaby. Most people spend their entire lives building a prison and calling it a comfort zone. They draw chalk lines under their feet and label them limits. They wake up, repeat the same old habits, fear the same old shadows, and hope for a new result. That is not living. That is a stagnant existence disguised as being fine. I am here to give you a personal perspective that cost me years of failure to understand. Fine is the graveyard of greatness. If you truly feel fine with your current life, then this audio is not for you. You can turn it off and return to your sleep. But if you feel a restlessness in your chest, and a dull ache because you know you should be at a higher station, then welcome. The funeral of your old self begins this very second. We call this journey beyond limits. But what is a limit? In Stoic philosophy, a limit is never a wall in front of you. It is the lens through which you view the world. Let me tell you a truth. This world does not want you to wake up. This system is designed to keep you just enough. Just enough to work, just enough to consume, but never enough to be truly free. They taught you to fear solitude. They taught you to crave validation from people who don't even care about you. The result? A massive power within you has been forced into hibernation. It is a block of explosives waiting for a spark, but you are using it as a pillow to rest your head. So my stance is clear. Your greatest enemy is not the rival out there. Your greatest enemy is the victim voice in your head. The voice that always whispers, "Do it tomorrow. You aren't good enough." Or, "You don't have the right background." Today, we are going to assassinate that voice. In the next 60 minutes, I'm not going to give you motivation. Motivation is a cheap drug. It hits fast and it leaves even faster. What I am handing you is the architecture of internal power. We will descend into 8 chapters of mental warfare. From deconstructing social illusions and learning the alchemy of solitude to building an emotional fortress that nothing can penetrate, I will share how I turned silence into a weapon, how I chose voluntary pain over easy rot, and you will learn the 40% rule. To understand that when your mind screams, "I can't go on," you have actually used less than half of the strength that nature gave you. This is not a background audio to listen to while you do chores. This is a cognitive surgery. If you are not ready to face the darkest corners of your own soul, you will never see the light of transcendence. Before we enter Chapter 1, I want you to make a final commitment. Put away your smartphone. Turn off every notification. Strip yourself away from the noisy world. If you cannot spare 60 minutes for your own future, then you do not deserve greatness. Remember, evolution always comes with agony. The caterpillar must tear through the cocoon before it can fly. You must tear through your old beliefs before you can touch infinite power. I am not here to please you. I am here to provoke you. Limits are a lie. Fear is an illusion. Are you ready to unleash the shackled king within your mind? Take a deep breath. Let the old version of you lie down. We begin now. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Walls. You were born as a creature of infinite curiosity and boundless energy. Look at a child. They do not ask for permission to dream. They do not look at a mountain and think it is too high. They do not look at a challenge and wonder if they are qualified to face it. But look at you now. You move within a small, invisible circle. You have rules for what you can say, what you can dream, and what you believe you are allowed to achieve. You have become a prisoner in a cell that has no bars, guarding a life that has no passion. Where did these walls come from? They weren't built with bricks and mortar. They were built with whispers. They were built by a society that values order over greatness and compliance over creativity. From the moment you entered a classroom, You were taught the most dangerous lesson a human can learn, to sit still and wait. You were taught to wait for the bell to ring, wait for the teacher to speak, and wait for the grade that would define your worth. You were taught that there is only one right answer, and that failure is not a teacher, but a permanent stain on your record. This was the beginning of the architecture of your mediocrity. The world around you is not designed to make you a lion. It is designed to make you a reliable gear in a massive, indifferent machine. The system needs you to be predictable. It needs you to be a good consumer, a quiet employee, and a person who stays within the lines. Your parents, your teachers, and your peers. Most of them meant well. They loved you, but they loved you within the limits of their own fear. They could only give you the map they were given, and their map was full of no-go zones. Don't take that risk, they said. Be realistic, they whispered. Don't stand out too much, or people will judge you. These phrases act like slow-acting poison. Over 20, 30, or 40 years, they calcify around your spirit. You start to mistake the ceiling of your environment for the ceiling of your potential. I have realized a bitter truth through my own years of struggle. Most people are not stopped by the lack of opportunity. They are stopped by the ghost of a no that was told to them 2 decades ago. You're carrying around a backpack full of other people's insecurities, and you call it common sense. Think about your current limits. Is it the limit of your bank account, the limit of your discipline, or the limit of your self-image? If you believe you are a 5, you will never produce a 10 result. Even if a 10-level opportunity hits you in the face, you will sabotage it. You will find a way to fail because your brain cannot handle the dissonance between a high-level reality and a low-level identity. This is what I call the psychological ceiling. It is the most effective form of slavery because the slave becomes his own master. You are like an elephant in a circus. When the elephant is a calf, they tie its leg to a heavy wooden post with a thick chain. The calf pulls and pulls, but it cannot break free. Eventually, it gives up. It learns that the chain is stronger than I am. Years later, when that elephant is a 5-ton beast that could uproot a tree, the trainer ties its leg with a thin rope to a plastic chair. The elephant stays. It doesn't even try to move. Why? Because the limit isn't in the rope anymore, it's in the elephant's mind. The rope is an illusion. The chair is an illusion. The only thing real is your obedience to a lie that was told to you when you were too small to fight back. In this chapter, I want you to perform a brutal audit of your mind. You cannot fix what you cannot see. Take a long, hard look at the walls surrounding your life. Who built them? Was it a father who failed at his dreams and told you to play it safe so he wouldn't feel like a failure alone? Was it a teacher who was too afraid to fly and took out her frustration on your ambition? Was it a friend who feels threatened by your growth because your progress highlights their stagnation? You must understand that most people's advice is just their own fear dressed up as wisdom. When they tell you it's impossible, they aren't talking about your capabilities. They are talking about their own scars. They are describing the height of their own walls. Do not let their cage become yours. Do not die in a prison that was built by people who were too scared to live. Breaking these walls is not an act of physical strength. It is an act of perceptual rebellion. It begins with a single, dangerous question. Who said so? When you hear that voice in your head saying you can't work 12 hours a day, ask, who said so? When you feel you aren't smart enough or connected enough to lead, ask, based on whose standards? The moment you stop respecting the wall is the moment the wall begins to crumble. We treat our limitations as if they are laws of physics, like gravity. They are not. They are social constructs. They are habits of thought. I don't want you to try to break the wall. I want you to realize that the wall isn't even there. It never was. It was just a shadow cast by your fear. and shadows have no power over those who carry their own light. But let me warn you, once you step outside those walls, means once you start acting like a lion among sheep, the world will try to pull you back. The herd hates the one who leaves the pasture. They will call you delusional. They will call you arrogant. They will say you have changed. Let them. Wear those labels as armor. If you aren't being criticized by the people staying inside the walls, then you aren't walking far enough away from them. Being normal in a broken world is not a virtue. It's a death sentence for your soul. Normal people are stressed, broke, and unfulfilled. Why would you want to be like them? You must develop a stoic indifference to the opinions of those who are still tied to the plastic chair. Their words are just noise. Your results will be the only language they understand. But results don't come from shouting. They don't come from arguing with the sheep. They come from the work. We have spent this chapter identifying the illusions. We have looked at the fake chains and the paper walls. Now the real work begins. To truly transcend these limits, you cannot stay in the environment that created them. You cannot stay in the noise of the crowd. The path to power is not found in the external world. It is found in the deep, heavy silence of your own soul. You must learn to go where they cannot follow. You must learn the secret art of internal transformation. The walls are down, the cage is open. But where do you go now? You go inward. Chapter 2. The Silent Alchemy. There is a profound, almost dangerous power in what the world cannot see. We live in an era of digital exhibitionism, where every step of the journey is broadcasted, every minor victory is celebrated for likes, and every goal is announced before it is even pursued. We have been conditioned to believe that if it wasn't shared, it didn't happen. But I am here to tell you that this constant noise is the very thing draining your soul of its potential. True transformation does not happen on a stage. It happens in the shadows. It happens in the heavy, sacred silence of the hours when everyone else is asleep or distracted. This is what I call the silent alchemy, the process of turning your private discipline into public gold. When you announce your plans to the world, you receive a premature hit of dopamine. Your brain mistakes the social approval for the actual achievement, and your drive to do the work begins to evaporate. You've already won in your mind, so your body sees no reason to struggle. This is the trap of the mediocre. They speak about what they will do so they don't have to face the agony of actually doing it. To awaken the power within, you must learn to disappear. You must develop a relationship with solitude that borders on the spiritual. Most people fear being alone because in the silence, they are forced to hear the truth about their own lives. They use noise, music, social media, meaningless conversation as a shield to protect themselves from their own inadequacies. But a lion does not fear the silence of the savannah. He uses it to hunt. You must become a ghost to the world so you can become a giant to yourself. And in this state of monk mode, your energy is no longer leaked into the void of social validation. Every ounce of your focus is recycled back into your craft, your mind, and your mission. When you stop talking about your life, you finally start living it. I have found in my own journey that my greatest breakthroughs never came during a period of celebration. They came during the months of isolation, when the only person I had to prove anything to was the man in the mirror. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of intense internal gravity. The alchemy of silence requires a brutal sacrifice. You must kill your need to be understood. The people around you will not understand why you've stopped showing up at the usual places. They will feel threatened by your withdrawal because it reminds them of their own lack of direction. And they will try to pull you back into the noise. They will call you cold or distant. Let them. You are not being cold. You are becoming concentrated. You are a diamond being formed under immense pressure, and a diamond does not seek the approval of coal. Understand this. The world rewards the results, but God rewards the process. When you work in the dark, You are building a foundation that no storm can shake. Public success is merely the delayed echo of private discipline. If the foundation is built in the light of vanity, it will crumble under the weight of reality. But if it is forged in the forge of silence, it becomes unbreakable. Think of your energy as a sacred resource. Every time you explain yourself to someone who doesn't matter, you are giving away a piece of your kingdom. Every time you check a notification to see if a stranger approved of your dinner, you're handing over the keys to your focus. The silent alchemy demands that you take those keys back. Start by practicing strategic disappearance. Spend hours, then days, then weeks where no one knows exactly what you are doing. Let your progress be a secret between you and the work. There is a terrifyingly beautiful confidence that grows when you know you are becoming better every single day and no one has a clue. You are building a shadow discipline. While they are posting about their grind, you are actually grinding. While they are dreaming of the finish line, you are falling in love with the dirt on the track. This is where the dormant power begins to stir. It feeds on the lack of distraction. It grows in the vacuum of privacy. The ultimate goal of silence is not just productivity. It is self-sovereignty. When you no longer need the world to clap for you, you are finally free to do what is right rather than what is popular. You become the architect of your own soul. You begin to notice things that the noisy world misses. You see the patterns of your own mind. You identify the leaks in your character. You realize that the most important conversations you will ever have are the ones you have with yourself at 3 a.m. when the world is dead. In those moments, there is no one to lie to. There is no image to maintain. There is only the raw, unpolished reality of who you are and who you are becoming. This is where the lead of your old self begins to turn into the gold of a new being. This is the alchemy. It is painful, it is lonely, and it is the only way to greatness. But as you master the silence, you will realize that the greatest noise isn't coming from outside. It's coming from within. The walls of the world are down, and you have retreated into your fortress of solitude. But now, you find that the enemy has followed you inside. The doubts, the fears, and the chaotic impulses of your own mind are louder than any crowd. To win this war, you must do more than just be silent. You must learn to dominate the internal commander. You must learn to speak to yourself in a way that commands obedience. The silence has prepared the ground. Now, we must install the new software. Chapter 3. Dominating the internal dialogue. You have built the walls of silence around you. You have retreated from the noise of the world, but now you face a much more dangerous adversary. It is the voice that lives behind your eyes. It is the constant, flickering stream of consciousness that determines whether you rise as a conqueror or fall as a victim. Most people are not living their own lives. They are living the life their internal dialogue allows them to have. They are puppets to a narrator they never chose. This voice, the inner critic, is a collection of every doubt, every social conditioning, and every fear you have ever encountered. If you do not learn to dominate this dialogue, all the external discipline in the world will not save you. You will be a king with a traitor sitting on the throne of your mind. To awaken the dormant power within, you must realize a fundamental truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing them. Thoughts are just mental weather. They are clouds passing through the vast sky of your consciousness. Just because a cloud is dark doesn't mean the sky is broken. Dominating the internal dialogue begins with disidentification. You must stop saying, "I'm anxious," and start saying, "I am observing a thought of anxiety." The moment you create that distance, the thought loses its grip on your soul. You move from being the victim of the storm to being the observer of the weather. The internal dialogue is not just a narrator, it is a programmer. Your brain is a biological supercomputer, and your self-talk is the code you run every single second. if you run error code. Thoughts of, I'm not ready, I'm too tired, or what if I fail? The hardware of your body will respond accordingly. Your cortisol levels will rise, your shoulders will slump, and your focus will shatter. I have found in my darkest moments that the difference between survival and surrender was a single sentence spoken internally. I had to learn to assassinate the inner victim. This is not about positive thinking or hollow affirmations. It is about command and control. You do not negotiate with a traitor. You execute him. When the voice says, "It's too cold to run," you do not argue. You do not explain why it's important. You simply issue a higher command. Move. You must transition from a democracy of mind, where every fleeting impulse gets a vote, to an autocracy of will. In this state, in the higher self, the commander takes over. The commander does not care about feelings. He does not care about the why of the pain. He only cares about the execution of the mission. You must develop a language of power. Stop asking yourself questions that invite weakness, like, why is this happening to me? And start issuing statements that demand strength. This is exactly what I needed to grow. The architecture of your internal dialogue is built on the foundation of your primary question. Everyone has one. It's the subconscious question that runs in the background of your mind all day long. For the mediocre, the question is often, how can I get through this day with the least amount of pain? Or, what do they think of me? Because they ask a weak question, their brain provides a weak answer. If you want to move beyond limits, you must install a new primary question. A question like, how can I use this situation to become unbreakable? Or, what is the most courageous thing I can do right now? When you change the question, you force your brain to scan for power instead of scanning for escape. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. This is the cognitive reframing that separates the elite from the masses. The event is neutral. The narrative you wrap around it is where your power lies. However, dominating the dialogue requires more than just changing words. It requires the slaying of the ego. The ego is the part of your dialogue that is obsessed with being right, being safe, and being special. It is the source of all your fragility. When someone insults you and your mind spends 3 hours crafting a comeback, that is your ego wasting your life force. When you refuse to start a project because you're afraid of looking like a beginner, that is your ego protecting its fake status. To awaken the dormant power, you must become no one. When you have no image to protect, you have no limits to your growth. You must reach a state where your internal dialogue is so focused on the task at hand that there is no room for self-reflection. This is the flow state, or the zone. In this state, the I disappears. There is only the work, there is only the movement, there is only the breath. By quieting the ego, you allow the deeper, more primal power of your intuition and your raw will to take the lead. Mastering the voice in your head is a 24-hour-a-day battle. It never truly ends, but it does get easier as you build mental calluses. Every time you catch a weak thought and crush it, your mind becomes tougher. Every time you ignore a complaint from your body and push forward, the commander grows stronger. You're training your brain to know that its complaints will be ignored. But talk, even internal talk, is only the beginning. A commander who only speaks and never acts is eventually ignored by his troops. Your mind will only believe your internal dialogue if it is backed by physical evidence. You cannot lie to your subconscious for long. If you tell yourself you are a champion, but you live like a coward, the dialogue will become a joke. To make the internal dialogue absolute, you must marry it to external action. But you must prove to your mind that what you say, you do. This brings us to the physical manifestation of mindset, the active pursuit of the very things you fear. Chapter 4. The voluntary discomfort. A commander who only speaks but never bleeds is a pretender. You have mastered your silence, and you have dominated your internal dialogue, but now you must baptize your new mindset in the fire of reality. Most of modern civilization is a conspiracy to keep you comfortable. We have climate-controlled rooms, instant entertainment, and food delivered to our doors with a single tap. We have optimized our lives to eliminate friction. But friction is exactly what creates heat, and heat is what forges steel. By choosing the path of least resistance, you're allowing your dormant power to atrophy. You're becoming soft in a world that eventually turns cruel. To move beyond limits, you must adopt the stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. So you must systematically and intentionally seek out the things that make your body scream, no. You do not do this because you are a masochist. You do this because you are an architect of your own soul. You are teaching your brain that your comfort is not a requirement for your performance. When you can function at a high level while being cold, hungry, tired, or stressed, you become a dangerous human being. You become anti-fragile. A person who doesn't just survive chaos, but thrives because of it. Voluntary discomfort is the ultimate cure for the victim mindset. A victim is someone who is at the mercy of their environment. If the weather is bad, they have a bad day. If someone is rude, their mood is ruined. But when you practice seeking out hardship, you take back the power. Start with the small, daily assassinations of comfort. Take the cold shower when you desperately want the warmth. Fast for 24 hours when your stomach is demanding a snack. Wake up at 4 a.m. and run in the rain when the bed is calling you back to sleep. Why? Because every time you do what is difficult over what is easy, you're casting a vote for your new identity. You're building mental calluses. In the beginning, your brain will fight you. It will give you 1,000 logical reasons why you should take it easy today. This is the moment of truth. This is the resistance. If you listen to it, you remain a prisoner. If you ignore it and move forward, you are training your subconscious to understand one simple fact. The body does not lead, the mind does. Over time, the things that used to break you will barely even register as a nuisance. You are raising your baseline of what is tolerable, and in doing so, you are raising the ceiling of what is possible. There is a biological reality to this process known as hormesis, the idea that a small amount of stress makes an organism stronger. Your spirit works the same way. If you protect a muscle from ever lifting anything heavy, it withers. If you protect your mind from ever facing fear, it becomes fragile. I have found that my greatest period of growth always followed a period of self-imposed struggle. When I chose to stay in the arena long after everyone else went home to their warm beds, something shifted inside me. The dormant power isn't a gift that descends from heaven. It is a resource that is mined from the depths of your own endurance. So you must develop a lust for the struggle. Stop looking for the hack or the shortcut. The shortcut is a lie sold by people who want your money. The only real way out is through. When you see a challenge, do not ask for it to be easier. Ask for you to be stronger. Embrace the suck. Fall in love with the burn in your lungs and the ache in your muscles, for that is the sound of your limits being redefined. However, you must be careful not to mistake busyness for discomfort. Many people work long hours but avoid the one difficult conversation they need to have. Many people go to the gym but stay within the weight range they know they can handle. This is fake struggle. True voluntary discomfort is targeted. It hits you where you are weakest. If you are socially anxious, the discomfort is not running a marathon. It is speaking in front of a crowd. If you are a workaholic, the discomfort is sitting in silence for an hour without your phone. You must find the edge of your specific fears and stand there until the fear disappears. This is the stoic fortress, being built brick by brick. By the time life throws a real tragedy at you, a loss of a job, a heartbreak, or a health crisis, you will be ready. While others are collapsing in shock, you will be standing tall because you have been training for this moment in the dark for years. You have already faced the cold, the hunger, and the exhaustion by choice. The unexpected blows of fate are just another Tuesday for a person who has mastered voluntary hardship. As you harden your shell through discomfort, you will notice a strange phenomenon. You start to enjoy the things that others find miserable. And you find a sense of peace in the middle of the storm. You find a sense of pride in doing the things that normal people refuse to do. But there is a trap waiting for you at this level of development. As you become stronger, the world will notice. The sheep will begin to notice the lion. They will try to distract you with their noise, their dramas, and their endless digital interruptions. They will try to penetrate your fortress and steal your most valuable asset, your focus. Hardening the body and the will is useless if you cannot protect the mind from the modern war on attention. You have built the strength. Now you must learn to aim it. Chapter 5. Unbreakable. Focus in a noisy world. You have hardened your body and mastered your internal voice, but you are now stepping into the most brutal battlefield of the 21st century. The war for your attention. We live in an era of digital distraction where billions of dollars are spent by the world's most brilliant minds to keep you scrolling, clicking, and reacting. Your focus is the currency of the modern age, and right now, you're being robbed. Every notification, every mindless swipe, and every quick check of an email is a puncture in the hull of your ambition. You cannot build a cathedral if you are constantly stopping to look at every bird that flies by. To awaken the dormant power within, you must realize that focus is not just a productivity hack. It is a spiritual gatekeeper. And if you cannot control where your mind goes, you do not own your life. You are merely a ghost inhabiting a body that is being piloted by algorithms. Moving beyond limits requires you to build a wall around your attention, a wall so high and so thick that the trivialities of the world cannot scale it. You must move from a state of constant connectivity to a state of unbreakable focus. The first step in winning this war is to accept a harsh reality. Your brain was not designed for this level of stimulation. We are biological creatures with ancient wiring, living in a hyper-digital jungle. When you check your phone the moment you wake up, you're inviting thousands of strangers into your bedroom to dictate your thoughts for the rest of the day. You're training your brain to be reactive rather than proactive. And I've seen the most talented individuals fail, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked the will to ignore. They were so busy being available to everyone else that they were never available to their own greatness. You must implement what I call the monk mode protocol. This is the practice of intentional isolation. For at least 4 hours every day, you must become unreachable. No phone, no internet, no interruptions. In this vacuum of noise, your brain begins to perform a miracle. It enters deep work. This is the state where the dormant power truly wakes up. This is where hours of struggle turn into minutes of genius. If you cannot sit in a room alone with a single task for 2 hours, you are not a free man. You are a digital slave. Focus is a muscle, and like any muscle, it requires progressive overload to grow. Now, most people have the attention span of a flickering candle. They try to focus, but at the first sign of mental discomfort, the cognitive burn, they reach for their phone to escape. You must learn to lean into that burn. When you feel the urge to distract yourself, recognize it as the wall of resistance. If you push through it, you enter the flow state. If you surrender to it, you reinforce your own weakness. I make it a personal rule to never allow a machine to tell me when to think. My notifications are off. My schedule is a fortress. I do not check things. I execute them at times of my choosing. You must stop being a consumer of other people's agendas and start being the architect of your own deep focus. Remember, The person who can focus on one thing for the longest period of time will eventually own the world of those who are distracted by everything. However, focus is not just about what you look at. It is about what you choose to ignore. We are drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. We think that by knowing everything that is happening in the news or on social media, we are staying informed. In reality, we are just filling our minds with mental junk food. To achieve unbreakable focus, you must practice low information diet. You must become ruthlessly selective about what you allow into your subconscious. Does this information make me stronger? Does it help me solve the problem in front of me? If the answer is no, it is garbage. Throw it away. Your mind is a sacred temple, and not a public park where anyone can leave their trash. When you clear away the clutter of the now, you create space for the eternal. You begin to see the long-term patterns. You begin to understand that the crises people scream about on television are usually just distractions designed to keep you afraid and compliant. A focused mind is a calm mind, and a calm mind is a powerful mind. As you master your focus, you will find that you move faster than everyone else. While the crowd is zigzagging through 1,000 different interests, you are a laser cutting through steel. You will accomplish in a month what takes others a year. But this speed and power will attract attention. People will try to provoke you. They will try to pull you into their dramas. They will test your resolve with their chaos. They will try to trigger your emotions to see if you are truly as focused as you seem. It is one thing to be focused when you are alone in your room. It is quite another to stay focused when the world is shouting in your face. To protect your work, you must now protect your spirit. You must build a fortress that no emotional storm can breach. Chapter 6. The Emotional Fortress. You have mastered the physical world and the digital world, but there is one final frontier where most kings lose their crowns. The world of emotion. We live in a culture of hyper-reactivity. We are told that every feeling is valid, that every impulse should be expressed, and that our outrage is a sign of our virtue. But in the world of power, reactivity is the ultimate mark of a slave. If someone can make you angry with a single word, they are your master. If a temporary setback can plunge you into despair, you are not a leader. You are a victim of circumstance. To move beyond limits, you must build an emotional fortress. This is the art of non-reaction. It is the ability to stand in the center of a hurricane and remain as still as a mountain. And it is the realization that between the stimulus and the response, there is a space, and in that space lies your freedom and your power. Awakening the dormant power within requires you to stop leaking your energy through emotional outbursts and start containing it to fuel your mission. An emotional fortress is not built by suppressing your feelings. It is built by observing them with a cold, analytical eye. When someone insults you, your ego will scream for a defense. It will demand that you fight back to save face. But the man who has built his fortress understands that an insult is just noise. It has no power to change his reality unless he gives it permission. I have found that the most powerful response to provocation is no response at all. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of supreme confidence, and it tells the world, your opinion of me is not significant enough to alter my state of being. When you stop reacting, you take back the remote control of your nervous system. You become a black hole for negativity. People can throw their insults, their dramas, and their chaos at you, but it simply disappears into the void of your indifference. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by the moods of others. You are the sovereign of your internal state. This level of emotional sovereignty is the core of Stoic wisdom. The Stoics taught that we do not suffer because of the events in our lives, but because of our judgments about those events. If you lose your job, that is a fact. If you decide that losing your job is a tragedy, that is a judgment. The emotional fortress is built on the foundation of amor fati, a love of fate. You must learn to accept everything that happens as if you had chosen it yourself. If life gives you an obstacle, it is not a problem. It is a weight in the gym of your character. By refusing to label events as bad, you strip them of their power to hurt you. You must develop an internal validation system. Most people are like weather vanes, spinning based on the winds of public opinion. If they get a compliment, they are high. If they get a criticism, they are low. This is a fragile way to live. Your worth must be a fixed point, determined by your own standards and your own discipline. When you are your own judge, the jury of the world becomes irrelevant. Building the fortress requires emotional detachment. This does not mean you stop caring about your goals. It means you stop being attached to the specific path or the immediate outcome. You do the work with 100% intensity, but you remain indifferent to the result. If you win, you don't let it go to your head. If you lose, you don't let it go to your heart. You stay in the middle. You stay in the neutral zone. This is where true power resides. When you aren't afraid of losing, you are free to take the risks that others avoid. When you aren't desperate for winning, you are free to make the strategic moves that the desperate cannot see. I call this the iron soul mindset. You become like the deep ocean. On the surface, there may be waves and storms, but at the depths, there is nothing but immense pressure and absolute stillness. People will try to read you, but they will find nothing but a reflection of their own insecurity. So as you become a mystery, and in that mystery, you find your greatest leverage. But do not mistake this fortress for a prison. You are not hiding from life. You are protecting your capacity to lead it. By not reacting to the trivial, you save your emotional energy for the monumental. You save your passion for the work, your love for your circle, and your intensity for the vision. As your fortress becomes unbreakable, you will feel a new kind of strength. It is the strength of the survivor. You have survived the noise, the solitude, the internal demons, and the external chaos. You have reached a point where you feel you can endure anything, and that is exactly what you are about to do. Because even when the mind is ready, the body has its own limits. To truly go beyond limits, you must learn what to do when your biology tells you to quit, but your spirit refuses to listen. Chapter 7. The 40% Rule and Beyond. You have built the fortress of the mind, but now we must address the temple that carries it, your body. There will come a moment in every great pursuit where your lungs feel like they are filled with broken glass, where your muscles scream for oxygen, and where your brain begins to send an emergency signal. Stop, you are going to die. This is the moment where 99% of the world turns back. They believe the signal is a factual report of their physical limit. They think they have reached the end of their capacity, but the elite understand a secret that the mediocre will never know. When your mind tells you that you are finished, you're only at 40% of your true capability. This is the 40% rule. It is a biological governor installed by evolution to keep us safe, and to keep us from overexerting ourselves and dying in the wild. But you are no longer a caveman running from a predator. You are a visionary running toward a destiny. To awaken the dormant power within, you must learn to override the governor. You must learn to look your agony in the face and say, "Is that all you've got?" The 40% rule is the bridge between who you are and who you are meant to be. Think about the times you've quit. Think about the projects you left half finished because you burnt out. Think about the workouts you stopped because it hurt too much. In those moments, you weren't actually exhausted. You were just uncomfortable. You allowed the software of your brain to dictate the hardware of your body. To move beyond limits, you must practice the art of the extra mile. When you decide to work for 4 hours, to when your brain starts to wander at the 3rd hour, that is your 40% mark. That is where the real training begins. Anyone can work when they feel inspired. Anyone can run when the sun is out and the music is loud. But the dormant power only reveals itself when the inspiration is gone, the music has stopped, and the only thing left is your raw, naked will. I have found that the most important breakthroughs happen in the overtime. It's that extra 30 minutes of study, that extra set of repetitions, that extra hour of deep work when your eyes are heavy. That is where you separate yourself from the herd. You are proving to your subconscious that you are no longer a slave to your biological impulses. Overriding the governor requires a shift in how you perceive pain. Most people see pain as a red light, a signal to stop. So you must start seeing pain as a green light, a signal that you have finally reached the gate of growth. If you are not feeling resistance, you are not evolving. You are just repeating what you already know. I want you to develop a dialogue with pain. When the exhaustion hits, do not try to ignore it. Acknowledge it. Say to yourself, I feel the fire in my legs. I feel the fog in my brain. This is the 40% mark. I have 60% more in the tank. By quantifying the struggle, you take the mystery out of it. You turn an overwhelming emotion into a manageable math problem. You are teaching your nervous system a new baseline. The more often you push past the 40% mark, the further back the governor moves. What used to be your limit becomes your warm-up. This is how ordinary humans perform extraordinary feats. And they haven't been blessed with better genetics. They have simply negotiated a higher price with their own suffering. However, going beyond limits is not just about blind brutality. It is about calculated endurance. The dormant power is not a reckless flame. It is a controlled explosion. You must learn to breathe through the pressure. When the world is closing in and your body is shaking, the secret is in the breath. Deep, rhythmic, intentional breathing tells your nervous system that even though you are under stress, you are still in control. This is the flow state of the warrior. You are moving with maximum intensity, but with a calm heart. You aren't fighting the pain, you are dancing with it. You realize that your body is a much more capable machine than you ever gave it credit for. It can endure hunger. It can endure cold. It can endure days of focused labor. The only thing it cannot endure is a weak mind. You must become your own drill sergeant. You must be the one who demands one more when no one is watching. Because if you can't push yourself when you are alone, you will surely crumble when the eyes of the world are upon you. As you master the 40% rule, your entire reality changes. You stop looking for the easy exit. You start looking for the red line, the point where you might break. And you realize that the more you chase that line, the more it retreats. You become a person who is unstoppable, not because you never feel tired, but because you have lost the ability to care that you are tired. You have reached a level of mental toughness where your physical state is irrelevant to your output. But there is one final step. Hardening the mind and the body is still just preparation. You have built the engine, you have refined the fuel, and you have pushed the needle into the red. Now, you must decide what kind of person is going to sit in the driver's seat. You have transcended the old limits. Now you must define the new man. Chapter 8. The sovereign identity. Everything you have endured up to this point, the silence, the voluntary pain, the brutal internal wars, has been for one purpose: the total destruction of your old self. You cannot pour the wine of a new life into the cracked bottle of an old identity. To truly move beyond limits, you must perform the final act of the awakened. You must decide, with absolute authority, who you are. Most people live their lives as a collection of reactions. They are the son of, the employee of, or the victim of. Their identity is a patchwork quilt of other people's expectations and past traumas. They are living a life of accidental identity. But a sovereign, a person of dormant power, now fully awake, does not accept an identity. They craft one. They shift their being from a noun to a verb. And they no longer try to be disciplined. They are discipline. They no longer try to be successful. They are the embodiment of success in every movement. Identity shifting is the ultimate cheat code of human psychology. If you believe your identity is someone who struggles to wake up, every morning will be a battle of wills that you will eventually lose. But if you shift your identity to, I am the type of person who never misses a sunrise, the battle disappears. You don't need willpower to be who you are. You only need willpower to pretend to be someone you're not. You must stop looking at your past as a blueprint for your future. Your past is just a library of lessons, not a life sentence. The you from 5 years ago, or even 5 minutes ago, is dead, and the only thing that exists is the person you choose to be in this exact moment of now. I have found that the greatest limiters are the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. I'm not a math person. I'm not a leader. I've always been shy. These are not facts. They are comfort blankets for the ego. To reach the sovereign state, you must burn the blankets. You must be willing to become no one so that you can become anyone. You must develop the will to rebirth. The sovereign identity is built on the foundation of internal standards, not external results. A sovereign does not work hard because they want a fancy car or a title. They work hard because they refuse to inhabit a lazy body. Their standard is the only judge that matters. You must define your non-negotiables. What are the 3 things that, no matter what happens, no matter if the world is ending or your heart is breaking, you will do? Perhaps it is waking up at 5 a.m. Perhaps it is an hour of deep focus. Perhaps it is total honesty. These are the pillars of your sovereignty. When you honor your own word to yourself, you build a level of self-trust that makes you invincible. When you trust yourself 100%, you no longer need the world to believe in you. You stop seeking permission to lead. You stop waiting for someone to give you a seat at the table, and you build your own house. This is the dormant power in its final form. A quiet, unshakable certainty that you are the captain of your soul and the master of your fate. However, being a sovereign requires a radical level of extreme ownership. If you are the king of your kingdom, everything that happens within its borders is your responsibility. You can no longer blame the economy, your boss, your spouse, or your genetics. If there is a problem, it is your problem to solve. This sounds like a burden to the weak, but to the awakened, it is the ultimate freedom. If you are the cause of your problems, you are also the solution. You take back the power that you used to give away to excuses. You stop waiting for a savior, and you realize that the savior has been looking back at you in the mirror the whole time. You begin to carry yourself differently. Your posture changes. Your speech becomes more precise. Your eyes lose their flicker of uncertainty. You're no longer searching for your purpose. You're bringing purpose to everything you touch. Till you understand that greatness is not a destination you reach. It is a quality you bring to the smallest tasks of the day. As you solidify this new identity, the old world will look like a distant dream. The limits you once feared will seem like toys you outgrew. You have awakened the dormant power, but power is like water. If it does not flow, it becomes stagnant. You are now a different species of human. You have walked through the fire and come out as steel. But the journey does not end with your own transformation. A fire that only warms itself is just a spark. A sun that only shines for itself is just a star. The limits are gone. The power is yours. But the question remains, what will you do with it? The world is waiting for a leader who has mastered himself before he tries to master the world. We have reached the end of this hour, but do not mistake this for a finish line. If you turn off this audio and return to the same routines, the same excuses, and the same small-minded distractions, then you have not just wasted 60 minutes. You have committed an act of treason against your own soul. I did not record these words to entertain you. I recorded them to haunt you. I want my voice to be the one you hear when you are tempted to hit the snooze button. I want these principles to be the thorns in your bed of comfort, making it impossible for you to ever feel fine with mediocrity again. I told you at the beginning that I have a dark, personal perspective on this journey. Most people die at 25 and aren't buried until they're 75. They spend half a century as walking ghosts, nor mourning the person they could have been. I have been that ghost. I have felt the suffocating weight of my own wasted potential, and I am telling you from the other side of that grave that there is no hell greater than meeting the version of yourself you could have become and realizing it's too late to catch him. But it is not too late for you. Not yet. The dormant power within you is no longer a secret. We have stripped away the illusions of the social walls. We have forged a philosophy in the silence. We have assassinated the inner victim and built an emotional fortress. You have learned the 40% rule and you have claimed a sovereign identity. You now possess the keys to a kingdom that most men don't even believe exists. But power is a jealous master. If you do not use it, you lose it. And if you do not exercise your sovereignty every single day, the weeds of the old self will grow back. The sheep will try to pull you back into the herd. They will tell you that you are too much, that you are obsessed, or that you need to relax. Listen to me. Never take advice from someone who is content with a life you don't want. Their balance is just a euphemism for their lack of drive. Their realism is just the boundary of their own fear. You're no longer part of that world. You are a predator of obstacles. You are an architect of destiny. This is my final warning to you. The world is loud and it is hungry for your attention. The moment you leave this space, the algorithms will try to distract you. The dramas of the mediocre will try to consume you. Your own biology will try to trick you back into the safety of the cave. You must develop what I call the eternal stride. It is a pace of life that does not rely on bursts of motivation, but on the relentless, rhythmic grinding of discipline. A sovereign does not need a cheerleader. A sovereign does not need a perfect day to do the work. You must be able to perform in the mud, in the dark, and in the silence. I want you to look at the people around you, the ones who are complaining, the ones who are waiting for a savior, the ones who are addicted to their comfort. Do not judge them, but do not join them. Let their stagnation be the fuel for your movement. Let their no be the wind beneath your yes. As you move forward, remember that the beyond limits life is a lonely one. But it is a sacred loneliness. You will find that as you ascend the mountain, the air gets thinner and the crowd gets smaller. But the view is something the people in the valley will never understand. You will see the world for what it truly is, a playground for the disciplined. You will see that every limit was just a test of your resolve. You will realize that the only thing that ever stood in your way was the shadow of a version of yourself that no longer exists. I have given you the map. I have given you the weapons. I have shared with you the scars that I earned so you wouldn't have to bleed as much as I did. But I cannot walk the path for you. The door is open. The silence is waiting. The power is surging. Stop talking. Stop planning. Stop waiting for the right time. The right time was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Your limits were never real. Your fear was. Now go out there and make the world fear your potential. This is the end of the awakening. This is the beginning of your reign. Keep the stride. Stay in the fire. The world is yours for the taking. Now, move.